Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, today we're diving into a channel that, as far as I can tell, and listen, I've got well over 1,000 videos on here, so I don't always remember this information accurately, but as far as I can tell, I've never taken a look at the channel historically before. I am subscribed to them, but I don't think I've watched any of their videos. I think it was one of those things where it popped up, I subscribed so I would remember it existed, and then I hadn't taken a look at it. So I'm taking a look at it now. This is a video that's called "This Country Disappeared 8 Times." I'm gonna guess it's Poland, but I could be totally wrong about that. I haven't watched the video yet, so I'll put the link down in the description so you can check out historically for yourself. They've got 888,000 subscribers as of this moment. This video is from about 6 months ago, so it should be fun to watch. Let's dive in.
Pop quiz. What is the most bullied country in history?
It's got to be Poland.
You might think Korea, wedged between China and Japan, invaded so often it practically had a revolving door and is still split in half like a Cold War souvenir. But Korea wasn't wiped off the map, unlike another good pick might be Congo, enslaved, colonized, and carved up by foreign powers who treated it like a resource vending machine.
Yeah, but I think these are really recent examples. Well, I mean, Korea's not. It's been a long time, but Congo, very much within the last 150 years, is mostly what we're focusing on there. It's got to be Poland, right?
But Congo's suffering came from one monster at a time, and quote-unquote only suffered for 140 years, not 400 years, unlike maybe you could say Palestine, taken over 6 times by different empires, caught in a century of conflict and still waiting for a resolution. But even in its darkest moments, it was never completely wiped off the political map, unlike sorry, just got this awfully annoying thing in my throat. But I'm trying to say, no country on earth is bullied more than Poland.
Yeah.
Yes, the country of
And I'm excited that this is what we're talking about. I'm not excited this has happened to Poland, but I'm going to Poland in September for the first time. Really excited about that.
Rebirth and Mika. The country that was undone, fragmented, invaded, partitioned, zombified, erased, occupied, and controlled.
Yep.
This is a time teleporter, blah blah blah, goes back in time. We've done this 2 times already. Just get in. Let's go find out why it always went wrong. Historically Facts, Part 11. Before we talk about how it kept disappearing, we should talk about how it appeared. Our first stop is 966 AD. Before the year 966, Poland was a tribal territory ruled by the Pius dynasty. They had military, economic, and administrative structures, but it wasn't recognized by neighboring powers as a legitimate kingdom.
Something I'm going to have to do a deep dive into sometime. I've always been fascinated by the origin of languages, and I know that languages have a family tree, just like people have family trees, where you have, for example, the Indo-European tree, and then it branches off into different things, and so you have, for example, Arabic and Hebrew and other languages that are part of the Semitic tree. You know, obviously the English language is part of the, was it West Germanic language? So German, Dutch, English. You've got North Germanic like Icelandic and Norwegian and Swedish. Then you've got these weird ones like Finnish and Hungarian that aren't really related to the rest of Europe, and Estonian. So I'm curious where Poland fits into all of that.
Only one person can make you recognize as a proper state. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our recurring guest, Jesus Christ. In the eyes of all the cool kids, so the Germanic, Italian and Bohemian kingdoms, you are only a real state if you are a Christian. So in 966, the ruler Mieszko got himself baptized and became the Duke of Poland.
And this is an important thing here, right? Because a lot of these you know, obviously nation states in the modern sense didn't necessarily exist back then. In a feudal system, you have more of a situation where it's about land ruled by someone and whose allegiance that person has and who they owe allegiance to. And so it's more connected by people than it is by boundaries and borders and things like that. But one of the key prerequisites to a lot of these modern nations that exist is it goes back to when a ruler became Christian. And so the motivation for these rulers to become Christian, much like what happens with the Franks and, you know, with other groups, is varied. Some of them do it for political reasons. Some of them do it because they're genuinely converted. But it always seems to start with that.
Yep, he didn't proclaim himself as a king. He was a humble lad and stayed a duke his whole life. Though the more likely reason is that the Holy Roman Empire would have eaten them alive if he set himself up as a threat. So
right, yeah. That was really good. I like his style so far, because he's definitely hitting the key points, but he's doing so in a pretty humorous way.
Bolesław I the Brave became in 1025 the King of Poland. And the Kingdom of Poland was born and existed for exactly 6 years. Yep, the poor place only existed for 6 years, and
Wow.
the exact thing Mieszko predicted had happened. Let me explain how. Mieszko's son, Bolesław I, was technically the first king of Poland, but he only crowned himself king literally the same day that he died. Very convenient for his son, Mieszko II, who then became king without having to actually crown himself king. Slight problem though. Brothers. If there is one thing that Polish people hate more than Russia, it is brothers.
And this is a time in history when, the idea of all of a ruler's titles going to one heir doesn't necessarily exist everywhere yet. And so you have a lot of this where a ruler dies, or even during his lifetime, his lands get split up among everybody. And so you no longer have that cohesive kingdom existing anymore.
Bolesław the Brave had 3 sons, and he wasn't stupid. He knew that after his passing, his kingdom will be split between all 3. And that would certainly mean a civil war and the Polish state splitting apart. So to fix this, he kicked his 2 oldest sons out of the family to ensure his smartest and son with the most potential would inherit the entire kingdom, minimizing the risk of the entire kingdom falling apart. What the brave man forgot is that brothers have feelings, and they were pissed off. Otto was exiled and escaped to Italy, while Besprim escaped to the Holy Roman Empire. So while Mieszko II is getting cozy on the throne, thinking, ah yes, stability at last, his exiled brothers were basically doing Rocky training montages in foreign courts. Besprim shows up in the Holy Roman Empire, whispering sweet nothings into Emperor Conrad's ear, like, hey buddy, you know who's not paying you tributes like a good little vassal? My brother. Meanwhile, Otto is in Italy, probably trying to learn swordplay and democracy from the Pope.
I love how the Pope is the Emperor from Star Wars.
The result? Poland gets invaded. From the west, from the east, even a civil war started between the pagans and the Christians. It's like everyone got a group chat invite titled, Let's Wreck Poland. And by 1031, Mieszko II is booted from the throne. The country is in chaos, and guess who returns? Besprim. He rides back into Poland with German backing and all the sibling spite in the world. And for a brief moment, he rules. He even forcefully castrated Mieszko II because frick you, I guess? It shouldn't come as a surprise that...
It's one way to keep your brother alive, but make sure he doesn't have heirs. That's not something you hear about too much. I've heard about blinding somebody so they can't be king. Dang, that's harsh.
Besprim was a horrendous leader. He cancels the royal title altogether and rules as just the Duke. Most likely to satisfy his German patrons.
Yeah, be low-key.
He gets assassinated within a year. No suspects, but we are guessing the killer's name can probably rhyme with Drodder. Because Otto steps up, tries to claim the throne, lasts even shorter. Gets murdered, too.
Jeez.
So we are 2 brothers down, 0 stable kings, and Poland is doing what it does best. Bleeding in 5 directions at once. Eventually, Mieszko II returns to the throne like, hey, remember me? But Poland is in such shambles, he has to rule a split territory. And accept being demoted back to Duke by the same Holy Roman Empire his dad was trying to avoid. The Kingdom of Poland disappeared for the first time. It does get restored a little bit later by Casimir I, also known as the Restorer. So we're back on track, baby. Hell yeah, for a whopping 80 years. By the way,
that's better than less than a decade.
Meet Bolesław III, strong ruler, great war tactician, and proud owner of one very bad idea. On his deathbed, Bolesław looks at his sons and thinks, I could give the crown to one of you, or, hear me out, I could give all of you your own pieces of Poland. And that is how Poland entered its second slow-motion disappearance. Because instead of a king, Poland got 4 of them. And then 8, and then 12, and then no one really know how many there were. This brilliant system was called the seniority system, a sort of monarchy light. The eldest son got Krakow and the prestigious title of Senior Duke, while the rest get their own duchies to play with. The catch? The younger brothers were still supposed to obey the eldest. They didn't.
So, I mean, that's really no different than if you had just made the one the king. You're still creating the issue. And all of this goes back to one very simple concept: greed. People by nature are greedy and selfish and want what they want. And when you divide up land and you have somebody who has a claim on that land and they see someone else with more power, more money, more prestige, they want that. Look at how many times in history wars have happened for no other reason than that.
What followed was 200 years of dukes fighting other dukes, sons stabbing uncles, cousins suing cousins over a pond, and everyone calling themselves a rightful ruler of something. The map of Poland starts looking less like a country and more like a cracked mirror. Meanwhile, external neighbors are watching this like it's reality TV. Bohemia takes Silesia, German settlers pour into the west and build
So Bohemia today is basically a big chunk of what is the Czech Republic.
towns that to this day still end in Berg. The Holy Roman Empire keeps accidentally annexing things. And worst of all, the Teutonic Knights get invited in to help Christianize Prussia
And Teutonic Knights are the forerunners to Prussia. We'll probably dive into that topic sometime too, because it's a fascinating one.
promptly forget to leave. Poland is still there, technically, but if you ask someone who's in charge, the answer would be no one. Politically, the country disappeared to a tribal time. But then, finally in the early 1300s, someone decides enough is enough. Enter Vladislav I. Short guy, long name, huge patience. He spent decades fighting off rivals, holding together what scraps of Poland are left, and slowly reuniting the duchies. He's exiled more times than most people change shoes, but somehow he keeps coming back. Just like Poland. And in 1320, against all odds, he gets crowned King of Poland in Krakow. The first real king in over 200 years. Wow. Disappearance number 2, reversed. Now Poland is finally back on its feet. For 65 years? Come on, Poland, rookie numbers. 1385. Poland is once again facing a crisis.
Yeah, but we're getting close to the point where Poland's going to kind of hit their heyday, and they're going to actually become quite powerful and quite influential, at least for a time.
The king dies without an heir, so they reach out to the biggest, not yet Christified state in Europe, Lithuania. The deal?
Poland,
If their
Lithuanian
Grand
Commonwealth.
Duke, Jogaila, converts to Christianity, marries the 12-year-old Polish queen, and merges his country with Poland, he will get the crown. He agrees, converts, marries, gets baptized.
So there you go again, a matter of expediency, political expediency to become a Christian.
And takes the name Vladislav II, because this family has zero chills about recycling names. And just like that, Poland and Lithuania become one of the largest countries in Europe, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. For once, and the only time ever, Poland disappeared for a beneficial reason. It was multilingual, multi-ethnic, and massive.
And we know from history that's never a problem when you have a very large multilingual, multi-ethnic culture. I'm looking at you, Austria-Hungary.
From the Baltic to the Black Sea, bigger than France, richer than England, and more importantly, the Germans were afraid to meddle with them. For a while, it works. They kicked out the annoying Teutonic Knights, they hold off the Mongols, and even invaded Moscow. Twice. But of course, it's Poland, so the high never lasts. Fast forward 200 years. Welcome to the Swedish deluge.
Yeah, so at least this time it lasts 200 years. But here's the problem, is that now we're getting to a time where you're going to see Sweden has become one of the great powers of Europe. And we've talked some about that before, but Sweden's not only going to do in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, in the end they're going to do themselves in too.
Or as the Poles call it, potop, which literally means the flood. Because that's how it felt. Fast, aggressive, devastating. But why Sweden? Why the funny country of IKEA and meatballs? Well, because of...
You know what really surprised me about the reach of Sweden? You know, we like to joke about IKEA because IKEA is Swedish and it's everywhere. One of the first things I saw when I got to Amman, Jordan, was a giant IKEA. Yeah, they had an IKEA in Jordan. It was awesome.
Petty reasons. Of course, they noticed Poland had a lot of gold and money, so that made them a nice target. But that wasn't the reason they invaded. The main reason was a really long-standing rivalry. A couple hundred years ago, just when the Commonwealth started growing, the King Sigismund III somehow, through honestly sheer random tomfoolery, ended up as the king of the Commonwealth and inherited the Kingdom of Sweden. Lucky, lucky guy. Or so he thought. Firstly, he was Catholic, and Sweden was just done turning fully Protestant. That's on its own a recipe for disaster. But secondly, the king rather lived in the Commonwealth than in Sweden. The nobility in Sweden had enough of him and kicked him out as the king of Sweden, and elected a different guy. But Sigismund never got over that. He kept claiming the Swedish throne even after they told him to go baptize a lake. And Sweden, 50 years later, they never forgot that Poland was housing this papist drama king with a royal grudge. So when Sweden looked at Poland in 1655, they didn't see just a neighbor, they saw unfinished business. It all happened 50 years ago, but they really needed a good reason to plunder this massive country. And
Casus belli. You can't necessarily always just go to war because you feel like it. You've got to have some reason you can justify to your people, to your government, to the world.
They did. What happened next was not a war. It was a 5-year natural disaster. Warsaw burned. Krakow occupied. Monasteries looted. Nobles fleeing. Civilians dead, starved, or sold.
And unfortunately, the reality is at this point in history, the wars that are most devastating to Europe tend to be between Christians. They tend to be Catholic versus Protestant in some form or another. Now, the different forms of Protestantism exist, but I mean, just look at some of the awful, awful wars that you have happening at this time.
Population drops by half, and the fourth disappearance turned Poland into a wasteland. Still on the map, but basically nothing left to fill it in with. The Commonwealth limps into the 1700s with a massive hangover. The nobles are fractured, the cities are burned, the army is broke, and the monarchy, oh boy. They invent a new political system so dysfunctional it deserves its own sitcom. The liberum veto. A parliamentary rule where if one noble disagrees with anything, the entire decision is cancelled. In 1764, a puppet king is elected. Stanisław August Poniatowski. Charming, French educated, progressive, and deeply in love with Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia. Yeah, that's right. The King of Poland was once the side piece of the woman who would eventually help destroy him. Isn't that poetry? He tries to modernize Poland,
about right.
Set up schools, build a functioning government. But every time he lifts a finger, Catherine lifts a boot. The nobles, funded by Russia, or even the Prussians and Austrians, scream about tradition and freedom. And by
this is the problem with having one guy with veto power over everything, is that all you need to do is bribe one guy. All you need to do is get one guy that you've got a little blackmail on, and you can turn him against something.
Freedom, they mean the freedom to sabotage their own country for personal gain.
Everyone
Eventually, the neighbors decide Poland's too incompetent to be left alone. In 1772, they meet up and go, so instead of fighting over Poland, why don't we just slice it like a cake? First partition. Boom, 30% of Poland is gone overnight. Poland's like, wait, what? But tries to keep going.
And we talked earlier about human nature being selfish, right? So, we partitioned part of it, so now they're even weaker. Why not take some more of it? Then why not take a little more? Why not just take the whole thing?
Then in 1791, plot twist, Poland writes one of the most progressive constitutions in Europe. It guaranteed civil rights, strengthens the monarchy, reduces noble privilege, and Russia sees this and immediately starts foaming at the mouth. How dare you to get your act together without permission? So in 1793, they hit them.
It's not just that. It's also, and this is the same thing that happens with the early Napoleonic Wars, right? Is that after France has its revolution and they go away from the monarchy and they abolish their monarchy, that is seen by the nations around them as a threat. Because if France, one of the largest countries in Europe, can overthrow their monarchy, what's going to happen to our monarchy in Austria and our monarchy in the UK and our monarchy in Spain and all these other places? And so everybody sees it as a threat. So Poland reforming and having a more liberal constitution is going to be seen as a threat to people. So just an excuse to eliminate them.
With the second partition, more land gone. Poland's borders now look like someone sneezed mid-map. And finally, in 1795, after a failed Polish uprising, Russia, Austria, and Prussia meet one last time and just delete Poland from existence. No fanfare, no epic battle, just bureaucracy, maps, and signatures. Disappearance number 5. Poland is now officially dead. And it stayed like that for, well, look at that, just 12 years. Revived by an ambitious
Napoleon.
French general, Napoleon. After he beats Prussia, he gives the Poles a consultation prize. The Duchy of Warsaw. Sick. It was technically like a French puppet state, but the Poles are hyped. They get a constitution, reforms, even a Polish army.
This is one thing that doesn't get talked about enough with Napoleon. And I saw a ranking recently. It was actually, and I don't remember the source of it, but it ranked the most influential people in history. Number 1 was Jesus, as one might expect. I think that's perfectly accurate. Number 2 was Napoleon Bonaparte. Number 3 was Muhammad. And I had a hard time arguing with the logic behind that. I mean, people don't realize, way beyond just the wars, the impact that Napoleon Bonaparte had on modern Europe.
But we all know what happened at the Congress of Vienna. Napoleon loses again, and the monarchies in Europe go right back to drawing borders.
And Napoleon, one of his lines of descendants to this day is through a Polish child that he had.
Duchy is liquidated. Austria, Prussia, and Russia redivide the lands, and the 6th disappearance from the map entirely for the 2nd time has happened. And this time they were bullied the harshest. The Polish state gone for another whopping 103 years.
Yep.
But this time, as opposed to before, the 3 bully countries really wanted to erase Poland. I originally wanted to fast travel to when Poland finally re-emerged, but you can't believe to what extent the countries tried to erase Poland. Let's start from the bad to the worst. The bad, the Austrian Empire. They got the poorest and most rural part of the
Galicia?
country, so they didn't care too much about it as there wasn't too much money to be made from it. They initially suppressed Polish culture like the rest. And by that, I mean they literally encouraged Polish peasants to kill Polish nobility, which they did. But after the Austrian Empire became the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1867, they suddenly were like, you know what? You can speak Polish in your schools. And you know what? Go govern your own region. The Austro-Hungarians still weren't good, but to the Polish stuck in the German and Russian empires, it was basically Disney World to them. If the Austro-Hungarian Empire was West Berlin, then the others were in the Gulag. The wars. Prussia/German Empire. Hello, Johann Johann Kowalstein. I sure love the city of Breslau. Johann, do you want to get some pierogi? Gefüllte Teigtaschen? The Germans didn't want to just suppress Polish culture. They wanted to erase it. Not with the sword, as in the Second World War, that's for later, but with the pen, which is mightier than the blah 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 blah. Everything was Germanized. Speaking Polish.
One of the things I love that he's doing here is that he, I think he understands his audience well. Like, he knows that his audience understands basic concepts from history. And so he doesn't try to treat the audience like they're stupid and don't know anything. So when he does make references that he expects the audience already understands, he kind of laughs it off or kind of blows through it, saying, you know what, we have to say this, but I know you already know this. So well done. I think that he's got a good finger on who his audience is.
Was banned. Polish schools were German schools now. And you have to order your gefüllte Teigtaschen in German now. Students who speak Polish are expelled, parents who slip up some Polish lose their job and get imprisoned, and if you were a priest, well, you'll have it explicitly tough. The Germans knew Polish holds strong to their religion, so to ruin that Polish pride, they straight up just arrested priests. And the next time you speak a prayer to yourself, do it in German! The Great Bismarck came with an even better plan. Seize lands from the Polish and pay Germans to live there. And now we have the worst. Russia. After the failed uprisings of 1830 and 1863, the Tsars didn't just want to punish Poland, they wanted to beat it out of existence. Brick by brick, soul by soul. They shut down every Polish school, banned the Polish language from public life, even kindergartens were Russified. 5-year-olds beaten for saying...
I mean, if you are Russia, the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarians, on the surface, I mean, Austro-Hungarians didn't do this to their detriment, I think, but on the surface, in concept, it doesn't seem like the worst idea, right? This territory is part of your country. They may as well be part of your culture as well. Makes it less likely they're going to rise up against you. Makes it less likely they're going to try to unite with the other groups of people that they identify with. So if you are a nation, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense for the people because you're destroying their culture, but I understand it.
Mama instead of mama. Professors who refused to teach in Russian were fired, jailed, or exiled to Siberia, where they could freeze alongside the books they used to assign. And the church? Good luck. Catholicism was seen as the wrong Christianity. Priests were arrested, forced to convert to Orthodoxy, or sent to die in labor camps. Like the Germans, the Russians renamed cities, renamed people, renamed rivers. Whole villages were relocated and repopulated with ethnic Russians. Not with the almighty pen, but with the bloodied sword. But through all of this, the Polish endured. Even after a total of 123 years of disappearance and suppression, the grandkids still spoke Polish, knew the history, and ate pierogi.
And that's important that they kept that culture because that's going to give them a cultural identity to build on later.
That came in handy because after winning the First World War, the Entente powers came up with a great idea to punish the Central powers. Add buffer countries in between them, so they can't team up easily and cause a, well, it sounds stupid, but a second World War. So Poland was reborn! Now, to be fair, the British and French were probably stupid drunk on making the borders because the newly reformed Poland was literally asking to get dunked on again. But they survived for 20 years this time. Yeah, it is sad.
20 years.
It is now 1939. Poland is rebuilding. It's modernizing. It's surrounded by two megalomaniacal empires with a crush on its territory. On the left, Nazi Germany, on the right, the Soviet Union, and Poland right in the middle. Like a historical chew toy. So Hitler walks...
So we've talked about this, but if you haven't heard it, a lot of people ask the question, why when, because in 1939, September 1st, the Germans invade Poland. And not long after, the Soviet Union's going to invade Poland from the east. And the question is, well, why did countries like Britain and France declare war on Germany for invading Poland, but not the Soviet Union? Well, the reason's pretty simple. They had a treaty obligation to defend Poland specifically against Germany. The treaty said if Germany invades Poland, we will declare war on Germany. They had no such treaty when it came to the Soviets.
To Danzig, like, this is mine. Poland says no. French and Britain say, we got your back. But spoiler, they didn't.
And Danzig's where we're starting our tour that we're doing in September. So it's called Gdansk now.
After a rowdy September, Poland is gone again. 7th time, by the way. But this time, the brutality reaches biblical levels.
Yeah.
Gone was the pen approach, in came the gas instead. And the Soviets came with the, just to be safe, let's put everyone on the train to Siberia approach. Goodbye 1 million Polish people. Hope you enjoyed your 20 years of having your country back. By 1945, Nazi Germany is gone. Poland is liberated, but guess who's now in charge? Stalin. The Soviets liberate Poland by doing what they do best. Replacing one tyranny with another. Poland gets a puppet government, Soviet troops, and Soviet censorship. And as the cherry on top, a brand new flag with the same old oppression. This is the 8th time, and final time, for now, that Poland disappears. Ask your parents, not even your grandparents. They could...
And Poland existed on the map, but they didn't have their own, right to rule. They didn't have really self-control.
Literally tell you how life was under extreme communism. Poland was a satellite state for the Soviets till it collapsed in 1990.
I mean, what was the organization called between the Soviet Union and their satellite states? It was the Warsaw Pact.
And now, in 2025, Poland has been free and strong for 34 years.
And what was awesome about the late days, if there was anything awesome about the late days of communism in Poland, is that by the time Poland is free from the yoke of communism, the Pope is Polish. Pope John Paul II was Polish. Karol Wojtyła was his name.
I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get anxious about their existence. The law of repetition says Poland will be gone in a couple of years, so quickly visit it while we
Let's
still
hope
can
not.
and make sure to eat some pierogi.
I am gonna quickly visit it.
Stick around as long as the Polish will. And they will stick around. No matter what happens to the Polish people, even if they literally can't speak their language or they get shot, they survived. Or rather, outlasted. Just think about it for a moment. Poland outlived the Mongols, who burned it, the Teutonic Knights, who Christianized it by force, the Swedish Empire, who drowned it, Russia, who partitioned it, the Austrians, who ignored it, the Russian Empire, who erased it, the Soviet Union, who smothered it, and the Third Reich, who tried to annihilate it. They all fell apart, but Poland, it's still here. Checkmate, tovarish.
All right, that was good. I've always really admired Poland for some of the reasons he mentioned. You know, that just dogged determination to continue to exist despite everything that it's been through. So if you're Polish and you're watching, love you guys. Cannot wait to visit your country. Really, really excited about that. You've got amazing history, and above all other things, you have the winged hussars. Jan III Sobieski, charging down to save Vienna from the invading Muslims. And just one of my favorite moments in all of history in 1683. So you've got some amazing stories to tell, and I can't wait to tell some of them. So thanks for watching. We will see you again soon.